The clone troopers were some of the greatest soldiers in the galaxy, being highly trained from birth, and there are many fan favorite characters like Captain Rex, Commander Cody, Commander Woolfe, Fives, and many, many more. They were each assigned a legion and most served under a Jedi General, which helped the Jedi combat the separatists in the war that would be named after them, the Clone Wars. And today I wanted to talk about the origin of the clone troopers and where they came from, get into the process of how they were initially created on Kamino. It's a very interesting story of mystery and deception that the Jedi didn't learn about until the last days of the war. Even then, they still didn't even have enough pieces to figure out the true reason for their creation, which led to the death of the Jedi Order. So the clones had an interesting history. It's not so much about them, but a Jedi by the name of Sifo Dyas. Sifo Dyas was a human male from the planet Minashi. He was raised in the Jedi Temple and trained by Jedi Master Lenny Costana, a female Atiri with purple skin. In his early years, he would become good friends with Dooku, and they would remain so for many years until Dooku left the Order. Sometime before the invasion of Naboo, Sifo Dyas had earned a spot in the Jedi High Council among the other great Jedi Masters. Now, much like Anakin, Sifo Dyas was gifted with his ability to see glimpses of the future, a gift of foresight that not many Jedi possessed. In one of these visions, he was shown great conflict within the Republic, which we know to be the Clone Wars between the Galactic Republic and the Separatists. After this vision, he went to his fellow Jedi on the Council and warned them of the coming conflict. He suggested an army would be needed to deal with this. But this surprised the members of the council. They encouraged him that he shouldn't act on fear of his visions due to what they could potentially lead to, the dark side. During this time, it seemed like the Jedi were becoming more blind to the events around them. As the Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn explained it, he felt they had allowed the Jedi Order to become a sort of Chancellor's police, rather than concentrating on knowing the Force, which is why he ended up declining a seat on the High Council. But in this situation, if they had listened to Sifo Dyas and heard him out, they could have possibly handled the Clone Wars differently, maybe even prevented it if possible. Now, with this suggestion of an army, it led to Dyas being removed from the council entirely. A little harsh, but they thought this was for the best. Even with the High Council's disapproval of an army, Sifo Dyas ignored their wishes and secretly contacted the Prime Minister of Kamino. There he talked with Lama Su and asked that he would create an army on behalf of the Galactic Senate, unknown to them. They discussed the details of this army and mentioned how they would use clones, as the Kaminoans were known to specialize in this type of work and they were the ones that pioneered it. Once the arrangements had been made, Sifo Dyas went on to his normal Jedi duties now that he was no longer on the council. But after Darth Sidious had discovered this army in the works, he realized the potential they had for his plans and he decided on stealing it for his own benefit in the future. At the request of Chancellor Valorum, the Chancellor before Palpatine was elected, he sent Sifo Dyas to Obadiah on a secret mission unknown to the Jedi Order. He was to negotiate with the Pike Syndicate. Their spice trade was causing problems in the Coruscant underworld. But the negotiations were short as the Jedi Council contacted Sifo Dyas and sent him to Felucia so that he could deal with conflict between the local tribes. Darth Sidious sent Count Dooku to deal with his former friend. Using the name Darth Tyrannus, he contacted the Pikes and made a deal with them. So they agreed and shot down Sifo Dyas' shuttle, which caused him to crash on the moon orbiting the planet. Tyrannus disguised himself as a Jedi and took the body of Sifo Dyas to Felucia, so it seemed like his death was a casualty of the skirmish. The Felucians cremated his body as it was one of their customs, but this destroyed any evidence of how he truly died and left the Jedi Council unaware of what was really going on. Dooku used the identity of Sifo Dyas to continue working with the Kaminoans to create their army. This is when Dooku would hire the bounty hunter Jango Fett to be the genetic template for the clone army. He received 20 million credits and an unaltered clone of his own named Alpha. That clone was his son who he called Boba Fett. Though unknown to Jango Fett, another unaltered female clone would be made named Omega. Dooku also made sure that every clone would receive an inhibitor chip in their head. Sifo Dyas originally thought of this chip as a safeguard against the Jedi, but the Sith used this to their advantage. This chip would be used against the Jedi later on in the event we all know as Order 66, where the clones turned on the Jedi and killed almost all of them. The request of the clone army all took place 10 years before the Clone Wars actually started. This would give them a chance to create a large enough army and train them. Numerous changes were made to Jango's DNA that would give the clones accelerated growth so they could mature much faster than a normal human. They also made it so that they would be much more susceptible to following orders. Further altercations were made so the clones would be more compliant and less independent. But they weren't just battle droids following orders. The clones were made to be capable of thinking creatively and being unique in their own way. This would make them much better than a normal droid. A majority of the clones shared the same features as their template, but many of them would also go on to make themselves feel unique, whether that was with different hairstyles, colored hair, or even tattoos. Every clone was given an identification code placed in their left wrist. This was very much like a name for them at the time. Later on, they would create their own names. Once the Clone Wars kicked off, the codes were linked to the file of every individual clone in the Republic's database. This way they could be accessed to find the rank, designation, and entire record of who they were affiliated with. With so many clones, this was necessary if you wanted to find out who was who. During the clones' training process, Jango Fett designed them so they would acquire the same skills as him. This proved to be effective as the clone army was a success and their only flaws were the chips planted into their heads by Sidious and Dooku. Now throughout the years, the clones would continue to be created on Kamino and trained there until they were eventually discovered by Obi-Wan Kenobi. He informed the Jedi Council of the secret army, which they did end up using. The Battle of Geonosis was their first time seeing any action, but it wasn't their last. This battle kicked off the Clone Wars and we would see many more battles, until it all came to an end when Emperor Palpatine executed Order 66 and had the clones turn on their Jedi friends, who they became close with over the years. There we have it, the origin and history of how the clones came to be. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you want to see more videos on other types of clones, or just about clones in general, let me know. The clones are awesome and some of the best soldiers in Star Wars. They have so many great stories and I wish they could have played a bigger part in the Empire. But Palpatine didn't need the strength and muscle anymore with all the Jedi wiped out. Make sure to subscribe to join the Empire today, and I will see you all in the next one. Now as always, my friends, may the Force be with you.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. You're not a Jedi yet.